Do you remember Batley Grammar School? Well, if you don't remember, then shame on you because you are a part of the problem. Let me jog your memory. A teacher at a local school decided to show a cartoon of Prophet Muhammad after another teacher, Samuel Petty, was brutally murdered by a jihadi. Why? Because he got the conversation around freedom of speech going. He wanted to educate his pupils on one of the most fundamental aspects of Western civilization that made the West the greatest civilization of all time, i.e., free speech. Why is the West so different from the rest of the world? There are some other countries in the world, they've got tall buildings, got a lot of money, but what they don't have is free speech. That's where the West stands out. So seeing his fellow French colleague getting killed over just getting the conversation around free speech going, he decided to do the same thing to his pupils. He decided to show them the cartoon, and he warned his Muslim students that what he's about to show may offend their sensibilities. And lo and behold, a few hours later, a mob of violent and intimidating, shouting, aggressive Muslim protesters turned up at the school. And the school, instead of standing by their teacher for standing up for one of the most fundamental values of the Western civilization, they threw him under the bus. And to this day, some 2.5 years later, that teacher is still in hiding because he knows that if he goes out in his own country, he would be killed by some raging lunatics that the West has mindlessly imported from the East. This is why the famous philosopher Karl Popper said, "You cannot tolerate the intolerant." A notion that is completely unknown to these crazy leftist Wokistanis. But there's a saying in Indian, you cannot feed the snake and expect not to be bitten. Interestingly, the very violent mobs that these naive leftists have been protecting have started turning against them.
A community divided.
If the community has a faith-based ethos, then the schools should reflect that.
We've seen that in America and Canada, where Muslim parents, along with some conservative Christians, show up in front of schools protesting against woke values. I just want to commend the idiocy of those silly conservative Christians who think that they can join forces with these radical Muslims against these progressive leftist Western values of tolerance towards LGBTQ. Transgenders, yes, I see that this pronoun debate has gotten out of hand, but it's a distraction. You don't need to join forces with radical Muslims to speak up against some raging blue-haired transgender activist who insists on being addressed by a certain pronoun. You really want to join forces with radical Muslims to fight these people? You don't need that. You can do that on your own. You can't get in bed with radical Muslims. Now, I am not building a case against multiculturalism. I'm a brown guy. I'm from Pakistan. I'm an ex-Muslim. But I embraced superior Western secular liberal values. And there are literally millions of people like us. Have a look at the survey from Pew. There were more ex-Muslims in Europe between 2010 to 2016 than people converting to Islam. So in other words, more brown people are leaving Islam for superior Western secular liberal values. And look at the Indian diaspora in the West. Look at the Chinese. And you would find so many other people who have come to the West and integrated into Western society. But there is a condition. The local values must stand firm. Let me give you an example from ancient Rome. Ancient Rome was also a melting pot of various cultures and societies, but those ancient Romans never compromised on their fundamental Roman values, whatever they were. Of course, by our standards, they were primitive and archaic, but they embraced everyone. They took people from all around the Mediterranean. But when they entered Rome, they had to be under Roman society and its values. So why are these leftists so stupid that they say, ooh, let us be so tolerant towards your archaic, primitive values that we would compromise on our own values for the sake of your archaic, primitive values. Sorry, I rambled on for a little bit, but let me come to the subject of this video. Because nothing happened after the Batley Grammar School incident, Muslims became more and more brazen. As you know, whether you are a progressive Muslim, lipstick Muslim, or a radical Muslim, when it comes to protecting your own community or propagating your own agenda, they don't care. Who's right, who's wrong goes out of the window. The only thing that matters is we are going to go by what's best for our community's interest. So yesterday, just like the Batley Grammar School, because they were emboldened that these Western people are so emasculated that they're not going to do anything. They're not going to respond. No matter what we do, we can shout, intimidate, be aggressive. Nobody's going to do anything. Nobody's going to stop them. And they also know that the Met Police have a two-tiered system. They come down really hard on local natives, but when it comes to Muslim provocateurs, they beg them, "Oh, please come down, sir. This is very disrespectful."
Please come down, sir.
So another group of protesters, radical Muslims, they turned up. And as I told you in my previous video, that Muslims are actually authorized by the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, to lie during war. And they see that as a wartime situation. So look at this girl. She's a hijabi and she's holding a poster saying, "As a Jew." She's pretending to be a Jew while wearing a hijab. They have no shame. Lies. So anyway, so these people turned up and they protested and intimidated the school, who told a kid not to show any Palestinian symbols. Why did they do that? Well, I'm sure they have seen these videos all around England where these raging, aggressive, shouting Muslims have been intimidating the local Jewish population.
Go educate yourself. I don't like that either. But the last time I heard,
They're intimidated by them. We've seen that in America, and we have seen in Australia, and of course we've seen that in England. So they decided, you don't show Jewish flags, you don't show Palestinian flags, but Muslims don't care about local values or laws or rules. They don't care about that. For them, it's my way or the highway. We're going to intimidate you. We're going to provoke you. That's what they believe in. So they sent the kid back, and the kid came back the next day again with a Palestinian flag. And they sent the kid back, and the kid's dad thought this is a perfect opportunity to intimidate the school staff. And look at this. They turned up, and they shouted and screamed. And look at this. Look at the language. They're intimidating. They know they're intimidating. They're trying to scare you. And I think on most part, it has been working. But I also think that people are starting to wake up. Ask this guy. Why does he have to wear a balaclava? Why does he have to hide his identity? I tell you why. Because he knows that if someone turns up, if someone confronts him, if someone tells him, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you shouting and being so aggressive?" Who knows? He can punch him in the face. If he has a knife, he could probably stab him and run away. And the police would say, "Sorry, we could not identify the person." Just like that guy who slashed Hatun Tash at Speaker's Corner right in front of the police, wearing a balaclava, and he ran away. Police said, "We can't identify the person, case closed." They're doing that on purpose. But if you ask Muslims, then why do you do this? Then they would lecture you on free speech, on free expression, freedom to protest, when they know deep down inside that they don't believe in any of those values. They're only exploiting these Western values against you. Do you want evidence for that? Look what they do in Muslim countries. Pakistan is not even a totally Sharia-compliant country. It's a proto-democracy. Look what they do to their own fellow Muslims. Look at this. This is not some ordinary guy. This is a Pakistani police officer ripping an Afghan flag off. Not to mention, they have already kicked out nearly 2 million Afghan refugees from Pakistan, half of them born and raised in Pakistan. Nobody makes a peep. Human rights laws, free expression, free speech, everything out of the window. They don't care. But they would lecture you. They know damn well what they're doing. They're milking you. Every time they look at these Western politicians, they see a jackass. They see an idiot who is hell-bent on destroying his own country, who doesn't want to stand up for his own country's values. Any person who does stand up to these mobs, like Tommy Robinson, they are shut down. The way he's been persecuted, it's embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. But I think Muslims have played their hand way too soon. They have revealed their colors way too soon. People like us have always known this. We were them. We know how their mind works. But we've been trying to warn you for many years, well over a decade now. You didn't pay any attention. But I think it's still not too late. I think people are waking up in the West. Just yesterday, European Union passed a landmark legislation that they're not going to take any more migrants, and the migrants that have already entered illegally, they would be fast-tracking their deportation process. It's happening. It was always going to happen. So what you need to do, you need to keep pressuring your local councillors, your local politicians, and these politicians must know that there can be no compromise on Western values. Islamic values are incompatible with Western values.
Io penso che ci sia un problema di compatibilità tra la cultura islamica o certa interpretazione della cultura islamica e i diritti e i valori della nostra civiltà.
And second, third generation Muslims have also proven that as long as they believe in the 7th century ideology, their mind cannot evolve. They have proven that. Yes, once those Muslims become ex-Muslims, then that's okay. Then they do embrace Western secular liberal values. So don't be a sucker. Stand up for your values. Hope you like this video. Like, share and subscribe. And if you want to support my channel, go to patreon.com/Haris Sultan. Or you can buy me a coffee. Doesn't cost that much. Until next time, ta-da. If you'd like to support my work, you can become my patron by going to patreon.com/Haris Sultan, or you can simply buy me a coffee.